Good afternoon, colleagues. Today I'm going to be discussing with you the memorandum for the grade 12 test that was written on Monday the 19th of April. My name is Renette van der Merwe and I'm from the Muteo district, and I will do today with you the memo discussion. Let us start right away. Colleagues, if we look at the first question, you will see it was a simple question where learners had to look at 4 different fridge freezers. It's different types. You will see the side by side and the top and bottom combinations. And they had to study this advert that was given, and then they had to do some calculations and answer some questions about it. Now the idea was that the learners should be able to see that the original prices was the prices given or the advertisement given, the source was acknowledged there. Then let us see what are the questions exactly. The first question simply asked the learners to write down the number of dates for which the prices in the advert are valid. So if you go and look, you will see the valid prices are from the 2nd of December till the 8th of December, and they specifically wanted the number of days. Now, in an advertisement, when it is said that the prices are valid from this date to that date, those 2 dates are definitely included. So the days valid will be then from the 2nd till the 8th, and that is if you start counting from the 2nd to the 8th, namely 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You will see then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. So the only answer that the learners can write is 7 days. If, of course, they didn't write the word days, but they just write 7, you also accept it for full marks. You will see in the description of the marks, it is an accuracy mark, so it is only 7 that can be accepted. No other answer will be accepted. It means if a learner said, for example, in his mind 8 minus 2 and he got 6 days, 8 minus 2 is 6, then that 6 will not be accepted as an answer. The idea is that learners must know that in the case of the advertisement, it is valid on this day of the 2nd and on this day of the 8th and all of the days in between. I hope that is clear. The only correct answer there will be 7 days. If we then look at how much will Mary Ann have saved if she bought the Defy side-by-side fridge freezer. Now, if you look at the descriptions, you will see the Defy side-by-side fridge freezer is then this one here. It clearly said side by side and it clearly said fridge freezer. This one may have said side by side as well, but it's only saying fridge. And these ones are saying combi and metallic freezer. So the correct 2 prices then to work with would be the price of 11,499 rand and 0 cents and 10,999 rand and 0 cents. Now you may ask yourself why the prices were given in this format. Remember, part of our, especially grade 10, when we start with mathematical literacy, basic skills, include that learners must know the different formats in which numbers are written. Now, this format that you see here are not usually used for our prizes. Our prizes are usually given straightforward as 11,499 rand. But this is the type of format that we usually use on bank statements. But what the examiners wanted to test here was whether learners can interpret these as then also a way in which we can write our numbers. In this case, when a point is used, like in this case that we have for these 2 prizes, the comma becomes the thousand separator. So the comma in this case is thus not the decimal comma that we usually use, but it is a thousand separator. So the correct answer in this place will then just be to take the the 11,499 and to subtract the 10,999. Here in the memo, you will see how the prices are then written like we are used to having prices written. You will see the comma is not there and the point is not there. So it's simply a matter of taking 11,499, subtracting the 10,999, and we get a CA mark of 500. If a learner misinterpreted, or let us first just check for what are the marks given. The first mark is a method with accuracy mark, which say the correct values must be subtracted. So if they are subtracting two wrong values or two other values, say for instance this device side-by-side fridge freezer, which is here, or something like that, but it will be the same answer anyway. If they subtract the two values what there was given with one of these two fridges here at the end, then this mark will be forfeited because it says it's a mark with accuracy. It can only be these two values that are subtracted. Then there's a CA mark on the 500. Now for learners who have interpreted incorrectly this 11,4999, they think this is a decimal comma. So they say it's 11 rand 49.99 cents, which is of course ridiculous because they are supposed to see that a fridge cannot cost 11 rand. But if they are using these two values, and it is the values that are the same as those two values, then the commas are at the wrong place now actually, if we think in terms of decimal comma, and they get an answer of 0.50 cents, then you can give the 1 mark for the CA only, because they are subtracting kind of the right values. They are just misinterpreting the number convention here, the number format. So in this case, you can give 1/2. Let us just take note that the CA can only be given if we are working with the incorrect fridge freezer. Both prices must be the same. So if you go and look, say for instance they work with the combi freezer and they are working with the price of 11,799 and they subtract 10,999 rand. You cannot give the method with accuracy mark, but you can see if they use both of these prices that are associated with the same appliance. Of course, this is a chest freezer, so we are not going to allow them to work with these two values. If they work with these values with the side-by-side fridge, it boils down to exactly the same as the answer on the memo, so there's no problem. So the only thing that we can then also accept as correct is if they take these two values, they subtract it, then the method with accuracy mark will be forfeited and they will then get only the CA mark if it was correctly subtracted. You will also see that we say here answer only, which means that if the learners just write 500 rand, you can give 2 marks on the 500 rand, because the only two values that could be subtracted to give the 500 was those two values. Of course, if they only write the answer and they say 0.50, please, then it is wrong. I need to be able to see where does the 0.50 comes from. So there must be a subtraction sum and then a 0.50, so that I can just see the answer. So only writing, if they only write 0.50, that is 50 cents, then you give 0/2. You are not going to assume that you know where it is from. The learner did not show you that they are subtracting, but using the incorrect convention. Okay, at 1.3, arrange all the sale prices in descending order. was the question. Now, if you think about the sale prices is actually the discounted prices. I was thinking afterwards that it would have been better if we said the discounted prices, because then it is very clear that the prices we want the learners to work with are these prices that you see on the paper here, the prices after some discount was given. Now, if we work with these prices of 10,999 Rand, another one 3,599 Rand, and then here also 10,999 Rand. You will see we have three values that are exactly the same, and we say it must be in descending order. So the values must become smaller. So the correct answer will be to use 10,999 Rand, 10,999 Rand, and again 10,999 Rand, and then the smaller price will be 3,599 Rand. Now, there's one accuracy mark for having the correct values, and there's one accuracy mark for the correct order. So say for instance the learner said 3,599 Rand, starting with the smallest one first, and then going to the bigger ones, 10,999 Rand, 10,999 Rand, and again 10,999 Rand. The learner can get only the 1 mark for correct values, but will lose the mark for correct order, and therefore the learner will get 1/2 if the learner is going to arrange these values in ascending order, because the question clearly stated descending order. Now, we had a question about what if the learners use these prices here. In other words, they don't use the prices here at the bottom, the sale prices, they use the prices here at the top. Now, I do agree that for a second language learner, it is maybe possible that they can interpret sale prices as selling prices. In other words, they may be confused that these selling prices are then the sale prices. But I am not tempted to give full marks to these learners, because in the final exam, it will be about talking about the sale prices. In other words, there is a sale and we are coming to discounted prices. So although I do agree that it would have been better to say here, arrange all the sale prices or the discounted prices in descending order. And the same for the next question, determine the mode of the discounted and sale prices. I am not going to allow that learners must get full marks. If they are then arranging the other set of prices, the 11,499, the 11,499, 11,799, and the 399, and they do the following. Remember, it's in descending order. So they are going to start with the first price will be 11,799, and then it will be 11,499. Then it will be again 11,499, and it will be 3,999. The original price. I'm going to ask you to only give 1 mark for the correct order. So the first mark about the correct values will be gone, but the second mark about correct order, because they are clearly now descending, you can give for that 1 mark. Please note that if the learners are using the notation as on the paper with the comma, they write, in other words, 11,499, then please do not penalize. No penalty if commas are present in the answer. Let us not penalize them again then for not understanding the convention. If the learners in this case, in the second case where they are not using the sale prices, they are using the original prices, if the learners now write this in ascending order, in other words, they start with 3999, they go to 11499 and so on, they will get no mark because they are using the incorrect values, and they will get no mark because they are using the incorrect order. So the learner will get 0/2. Okay. It is very much, remember, although we are working with learners who are not taught in the mother tongue, in the final exam, they need to answer questions like it was put to them. And sale prices clearly doesn't mean at this stage selling prices, it means the discounted price. The price now that they are on sale. So let us be just vigilant about that. At 1.4, they then ask the learner to determine the mode of these sale prices, these discounted prices. Now, if we look at the mode of the discounted prices, it is very clear that the price that are repeating the most is 10,999 rand. So that gets 2 marks immediately for being accurate. If the learner for some reason now again put the comma and write 10,99 net, please, no penalty, give the full marks. Because we have already penalized in this question for not using the correct format when they wrote it there. We are not going to penalize again. So if they write 10,99, please, no penalty. We assume then also that the learners know that it should actually be 10,999.00 rand. Okay, no penalty. Now, what if the learners are not working with the sale prices? What if the learners are working with the original prices? If they were working with the original prices, the mode, the number that appear most, will be 11,499. Because here we have a 3999 and here we have 11,799. So the mode is 11499. So if the learners say 11499, then we give 1. We only say it's the correct mode but of the wrong set of values, and we give 1/2. In this case also, if they write, for example, 114,99, I'm sorry, they will put the comma there, 11,499, give me also the 1 mark, 1/2. But please go back and explain to learners how it works in mathematical literacy and how the convention of the numbers work. I see a lot of teachers also has a tendency to write a point instead of writing a comma. In the decimal system, we use a comma. It is just that we want learners to understand that in the bank balances, when there is a point and a comma, that the comma becomes a thousand separator. But usually the correct way would be to write 10,999 rand and 0 cents. That comma is the correct way, not the point. We only use the point if we are going to use the comma as a thousand separator. Please make sure that your learners understand this convention. Okay, let us look at 1.5. 1.5 is asking the learners to calculate the percentage change in the price of the LG Platinum Combo fridge freezer. Now, there was only one Platinum appliance here. One LG appliance. This was a Defy, this was a Defy, this was a Defy, So the only algae is this one. So the platinum combi fridge freezer that they are talking about is then this appliance here with the original price of 11,799 rand and then the sale price of 10,999 rand. Now, remember, for those of you who read the reports written by our internal moderators at the end of last year, or this year actually, the NSC was marked, the script. So, the recommendation there clearly states that when it comes to percentage change, that we must tell learners to work with the following formula. The new price minus the old price over the old price, or the new value minus the old value over the old value. So at the numerator, we are going to subtract new price minus old price, and we are going to divide denominator always with the old price or the first price. Whether you say old price or first price or what you want to know, this is what it boils down to. Now, if we go and look, the price of the refrigerator or of this combi fridge freezer was 11,799 rand, and it is now 10,999 rand. So clearly the old price is 11,799 rand, and the new price is going to be 10,999 rand. So the price changed from the old price, which was that one, to the new price, which was this one. So if we're going to say new price minus old price, like we suggest in the formula, the new price is lower than the old price. So definitely we are going to get a negative value. Let us look at the memo. If we are going to put then in the place of the formula, remember the formula say that the percentage change, that is the formula which is given to learners on the mark, on the question paper. It clearly say new price minus old price over old price. We always put old at the bottom. So the new price is then the lower price of 10,999 rand. The original price of 11,799 rand is there, and we divide by the old price, which is 11,799 rand, multiplied by 100. Now, if we do that, you will see it's a small value, subtract a bigger value. We therefore get a negative value of 800 rand, which must be divided by 11,799 rand. Multiply then by 100. If you work this out, you get a value of minus 6.78%, and clearly it was asked or stated here in the question, give your answer to the nearest whole number. So when we go back to the memo, finally the answer must be given as a whole number. So if they stop here and they say the answer is minus 6.78, you're going to have to penalize 1 if it is not correctly rounded to 7, because the rounding was specified. If the learner did not write this step and go directly to the final answer and round, then you do not subtract any marks. There's no penalty. You give the full final mark of 7%. Now, especially our math lit learners are having a tendency of leaving out the negative sign. Let us just see what will we do if they do that. The first mark here is for substitution of correct values. So clearly, in the denominator, the correct value should be 1099 minus 11,799 over 11,799. multiply, then the next mark is to multiply by 100. So if the learner maybe did not multiply by 100 throughout, you know that some learners, they write 1099 minus 11799, they get 11799, and they will end up with the answer of 0,0678. They will lose this mark of multiplying by 100. So the first mark is to substitute all of these things on the correct place. New minus old over old. Okay? The second mark is to multiply by 100. The third mark is then to CA, the answer, and the fourth mark will be on the rounding. The third and the fourth mark can be combined. Some learners do multiply with the 100, although they don't write it. They say 800 over 11799 and they write then 6,78%. If they don't write it but they do multiply by 100, we still give them the mark for multiplying by 100. The question is now, if the learner do not have the negative sign. Now, some learners are, of course, going to write, for example, 11799 minus 10999, and they are going to divide by 11799, and they will multiply by 100. So, if they swap these two values around, they will have a positive value of 800, and they will divide it by 11799. They will multiply by 100 and they will have a positive value of 6,78%. If learners do that, they will lose the SF mark. But now you proceed and you give the full mark here for the method, and you give the CA, and then if the rounding is correctly done to 7%, you give also the rounding mark. So this learner can get 3/4 because the substitution is incorrect. If that can be clear. Then you have learners who write here the things correctly. They write 1099 minus 11799 over 11799. But when it comes here, suddenly it becomes positive. We are not going to penalize that learner. And the reason for it is, if you look at the marking, you are going to see that one is given to SF, one is giving to multiplying by 100, one is giving for the CA, and one is giving for the rounding. There is thus no place to penalize for the negative number. One way that we can then look here is, we see that they are asking for the percentage change. So learners should actually know that it is a decrease because the thing is getting smaller. Now usually that percentage decrease is on the paper, and then if they do make it negative, or that's negative or positive, then it's not such a trace match because the thing already asks for a percentage decrease. Now in this test they ask for a percentage change. But for now, do not subtract for the learners if they did not write the negative sign. But please make sure that if your learners in the test, when you are now going to do the memo with them, you are going to emphasize with them that that is a negative number, that is a negative number, and that is a negative number. So that they know that if the price is getting smaller, it's actually a percentage decrease. You are also going to get learners who write 10,999. They're going to subtract 11,799, but then when they're going to divide, they are going to divide with the new price. They're going to do this, and then they will multiply by 100. Again, the SF in this case is wrong because they did not substitute this value correctly. there is a multiplication by 100. So in this case, the multiplication by 100 is going to be there. So it is going to be correct. When they do this, they are going to get maybe an answer of, you will see they are going to now get a slightly different answer here. I just want to work it out exactly so that I can write it down for you. It is, they will say 10,999 Rand minus 11,799, and they will get the minus 800, just like you have it here, but then they will divide by that value of 10,999. So the value that they're going to get is, they will get a value of minus 7,27. Okay, and still if you round this to the nearest whole number, it will be minus 7%. So the learner will lose the mark there, but you will give the method mark for multiplying by 100. You will give the CA mark, and you will give the rounding mark, so the learner can still get 3/4. Just be careful, the learner must lose a mark if they did not write there 10,999 in the numerator. Okay, they must write 11,799. They incorrectly wrote 10,999 there in the denominator. Okay, let me just correct my language there. If they incorrectly write this as the denominator, then they must lose a mark, at least 1 mark. So the rest you can check, did they multiply by 100, you can see A and then the rounding. Again, if the learner go directly from year to year, then these 2 marks can be given at the final step. The learner still gets 3/4. If the learner do not multiply by 100 and get an answer of 0,07, then remember the learner must also lose this mark of multiplying by 100. But I'm sure if you follow this pattern, you will be able to give the learner the marks. Okay, let us then come to the last question of here on question 1. The last question asks to determine the probability, and it specifically asks as a percentage. So if a learner is not going to give it as a percentage, there is going to be a penalty of randomly selecting a defy make appliance from the items shown in the game advertisements. Now, if you go and look at the makes, like I said, the first one is a defy, the second one is a defy, the third one is a defy, but the fourth one is a algae appliance. So there are actually the number of appliances shown here are 4, so there are 4 outcomes, and the ones that's going to be about a defy make is going to be 3 of the 4 outcomes. So if we go then to the memo, there's a mark for doing the numerator of 3, there's a mark for doing the denominator of 4. In other words, if it is, for example, 1/4, the 1 is incorrect, the 4 is correct. Okay. Please erase this mark. It was on the original memo like so, but learners are getting this mark for multiplying by 100 in this mark by saying then it is 75%. If they just write 3/4 and they write 0,75, they will lose, they will get it for 3, they will get it for 4, but they will lose it for the final answer. So there's 1 mark on the numerator, 1 mark on the denominator, and a final mark on the correct format, which actually is incorporated in this initial remark. So please make sure that you mark with the correct version of the memo, which is the one which says numerator and denominator. Please note that if the learners are giving the answer only and they are just writing 75%, then you can give 1, 2, 3 marks. But note, if they only write 0.75, you give 0/3. If learners only write the answer, they must write exactly the correct answer. If this is the only thing that they write is 0.75, they must get 0/3. Because you must be able to see where is that thing coming from. And you must give, at the end of the day, a mark for the numerator and denominator. If they write 75%, we know they have the correct numerator, they have the correct denominator, and they multiply it by 100. So I hope that is clear, and that is going to be how we mark the first question. Let us then move on to the second question. The second question is going to first entertain the whole aspect of tariffs. So let us look what was given here. Mr. Gabo received the following electricity tariffs for the period 1 July 2018 to 30 June 2019. And you will see it is domestic tariffs, meaning that it is for ordinary households. It's not for businesses of any kind. But what we clearly see is that we are having one set of tariffs for the summer and another set of tariffs for the winter. So we have two different sets of tariffs for winter and summer. Now, in the question it is stated, use the domestic tariff block above to answer the following questions. The first one is to define the term tariff in the context of the information given above. In other words, you cannot go and give a definition of tariffs in general. You need to relate this definition of tariffs to electricity usage. So a correct answer in this case will be, it is a rate. Remember, a tariff is always a rate. In this case, it is a rate at which electricity consumption are charged. It is the rate, I think it must be consumption and it must be easier, but doesn't matter. The rate at which electricity consumption is charged. In other words, the learner cannot just say it is a rate. If the learner just say it is a rate, it must be just, you can give 1 out of 2 marks, because definitely there is a mark on rate and another mark should be what is the rate related to. So if the learners just say define the term tariff in the context of the question and they say the tariff is the rate at which they pay, for example, the learner's answer is the rate at which, learners has a tendency not to specify, they just say they pay, or we can actually say consumers pay. Then we are just going to give a mark on rate, okay? And we will just give 1/2. But if they relate the rate or the charge to electricity, then the second mark can be given. You will note that in the former question papers, if you go and look at them, we don't just ask the definition in general, we ask the definition in the context of whatever is given. 3.1.2, Mr. Gabo claims that he will pay R100 more for 361 kilowatt hour in winter than in summer. Verify with calculations whether his statement is correct. Now, the learner should be led by the number of marks to know that this is a long answer. If something counts 10 marks, the learners should know that it cannot be answered just by writing one or two things. The 10 marks indicate that quite a lot of work should be done. It is a level 4 question because the learners must now verify. So this question, which is then the 10 marks, is going to be answered in quite a lot of steps. What we're going to do is we're going to take the 360 kilowatt hour and we're going to work out what will it cost in summer. We're going to take the 361, we're going to work out what it will cost in winter. Then we're going to subtract the values and we're going to check if it's 100 rand more. So please, the 361. Let us first just check in which block is it lying. If we go and check the 361, the 361 is bigger than 350 kilowatt hour. So the 361 is lying somewhere in this block. It is in this bigger than value. So the 361 will be also here in winter, somewhere in this last block 3. Now remember that this is the way that tariffs are written when it is electricity tariffs. The more you use, the more you pay. But you also pay more per block that you are using. So the first 50 kilowatt hour, because in this block from 0 up to 50 kilowatt hour, there are 50 kilowatt hour. That we will get at a rate of 100 cents, 100.5 cents. Please note that this is given in cents, not in rand. Now in the next block from 51 to 350, how many kilowatt hours are there? If we subtract vertically and we say 350 minus 50, we know that in this block there are 300 kilowatt hours. And that 300 kilowatt hours will come at a rate of 106.96 cents. Now, already the consumer would have paid for 50 kilowatt hour and for 300 kilowatt hour. So, if we already paid for 350 and we already subtract and we already paid for 300 kilowatt hour, how many kilowatt hour must we still pay for? We already paid for 350 kilowatt hour. To make up, this is minus 350 kilowatt hour. So the difference between 350 and 361 kilowatt hours are going to be 11 kilowatt hour. So in this block we will only pay for 11 kilowatt hour and it will be at this rate. And in this block the same, we will pay 11 kilowatt hour and it will be at this rate of 161.7 cents. So just the same for winter, we are going to get 50 kilowatt hour at this rate, 300 kilowatt hour at the next rate, and finally 11 kilowatt hour at the last rate. So let's see. What are the learners getting marks for? So here you will see, first of all, the money has already been converted to rand. Learners can do this in rand or in cent. It is really up to them. They can first convert to rand and then work out, or they can work out and then convert to rand. But for calculating for the first block, for block 1, there's 1 mark. Okay. You will see here it says 1 mark for multiplying 50 by 1 rand, 0.005 cents. So if the learner don't multiply by this, if the learner say 50 times and they work with the tariff here R100.50. In other words, they rand with the cents, you can still give this 1 mark. They will then, when they are finished getting the answer, they will then go and write the answer in rands. Then, for the second block, they must now say 300 times that price. So some learners will already convert to rand immediately, or some will say 300 times, and they will still use the price in cents, 106.96 cents. So they will use the price in cents. You can still give that mark. The learners will then divide later with the 100 to put it into rands. So there are 2 marks for getting that. And then there's a final place where they must say 11.4595 when they multiply with this cents, which was converted to rand, to get 16 rand. You will note here is no mark here. So I will tell you now what to do with this. Finally, the learners is going to add. So there's a mark then for adding these values. You can give the mark whether they add in rand or in cent. Some learners only convert right at the end to rand. So please don't penalize them in the steps in between. And then for the correct simplification, and now it must be given in rand. So here it can still be rand or cent, but here it can be given in rand. Although not necessarily, the learners can wait up to the end before they are going to convert to rand. They can keep the whole thing in cents. So let's make it in cent or rand. In cent or rand. They can still here give it as 387.18 cents. You do not penalize. Let's take the rand away. They make it like, say, so many cents. Don't penalize if they work in cents. Not yet. Because there's nothing here which states that they must give the answer in rand. If they work in cent, no penalty if they work in cent. I'll write it now at the end. You will see there are 2 marks for 2 calculations. So please here, if they do this one first, you can give these 2 marks for the first 2 calculations. You can give this for the first 2 calculations. If they first do this one, you can give the marks for this one. If they then do the 50, you give it for the 11 times and the 50 times. So whichever 2 they do first, you can put the marks there. If they leave out the third one, you are going to penalize them here. This method is for adding all, or let's make it 3 values. If they leave out 1 value, they only add those 2 values, you're going to penalize here. Okay, so this is for a method is for adding the correct values. If they made a mistake here at the top, it is not a method with accuracy. So say for instance, for some reason they said here 51 times this, 301 times this, they will lose these 2 marks, but here they are adding their incorrect marks. Then you can give the method mark. And then there is a CA mark here on simplification. In other words, where they correctly add it. Now, if they only add 2 values, you can still give the simplification values as long as the values are coming from working with the blocks. The simplification can be given, at least 2 values must be there. And they must result from working with the blocks. then you can still give the CA mark. If they are just saying, adding, for example, the cents, this cents plus this cents plus this cents, they are not working with the right things, then you are going to have to penalize them the full marks. There's no CA. We call it a breakdown. They are not doing the thing at all. The blocks, if they work with the blocks, there must be multiplication of the kilowatt hours and the cents per kilowatt hour. Then we know they are working with the different blocks. Okay, let's look then at the winter. There is again 2 marks, and it's first of all, they are putting the 2 marks here, but you can give these 2 marks can be for any first 2 calculation. First 2. You can give it for the first 2 where they are correctly calculating. They are going to say 50 times the tariff. They are working with that block and getting the 63,83. They are going to say 300 times, and they are going to work with R1 36,31. They will get 408 rand. They are going to say 11 times and the tariff, which is R1 61,7, and they will get 17 rand. They will add all 3 values, and then they are going to get only a CA mark. Please note that this, what is following, only is applicable to what comes here. What is here stands there. There is 1 mark for multiplying 300 by 1361, or for the first correct block. Then there is 1 mark for multiplying by 1,6. It's a method mark. You can also give the method mark there. It doesn't matter. You can give the method mark on any 2 of these which is done correctly. They are going to add the values, and they are going to get a value. Now this CA, which is actually now this CA here, this CA can only be given if 3 values were added. And those values were resulting from the blocks. In other words, they multiplied those units with the price per unit. This last part is then emanating from this part, which says they must subtract. If they subtract now, this is the winter tariff, this is the summer tariff. So if they subtract the total for winter minus the total for summer, whatever they got, subtracting the correct values, winter, summer, even if they made a mistake and they incorrectly calculated winter and summer, but they are now subtracting it, you can give the method mark, and then there is a CA mark here for subtracting those values correctly. Now, the statement here said that Mr. Kabu will claim that they will pay 100 rand more. Now, you will see what they pay more is 103 rand 37 cents. So, as a matter of fact, Mr. Kabu's statement is incorrect. It is more than 100 rand that he will pay. It is not just 100 rand, it's 103 rand. So please take note that you should have the correct memo. In the first memo, it said Mr. Kabu's statement is correct. That is not right. It must say that Mr. Kabu's statement is incorrect. But note that we mark this independently. If something happened and the learners do subtract 2 values and they answer the difference is 100 rand. For some reason, something that they did, they do something and they see the difference is 100 rand. And then they say Mr. Kabu is correct. Then and only then you can give that mark for correct, if they calculated the difference to be exactly 100 rand. But in this case, and as it is here on the memo, the statement is incorrect. Which bring me back now to learners who maybe do the whole thing in terms of cents and not to rands. Now, to be able to compare it with 100 rand, they only need to convert in the final step to rand. So they can work with cents all the way. Then you don't penalize. It is just that the final answer must be in rand so that they will be able to compare the 100 rand with the rands that they get here as an answer. So no penalty if they work in cents. Just in the last step, so that they are able to compare. They must give this answer in the rand, because it is given that he made a statement about an amount in rand. So ultimately you will see there's 1, 2 mark, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 marks. Why do I get one more mark than what I'm supposed to get? 2 for these, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry, there is your 10 marks. 2 here, any 2 calculations, add, and then getting the answer. Sorry, any 2 calculations, add, get the answer. So up to here is 1, 2, 3, 4 marks. Then here is 2 for any 2 correct calculations, add and CA, so here is 3 marks. Then here is subtract. It is subtract for the method, and for the CA it's 2 marks, and then here is 1 mark. So I've got a total of 4 plus 3 is 7, 8, 9, 10 marks. Now remember, if the learners decide to do winter first and not summer, if winter is done first, then winter can get 4 marks. Let me try to explain it to you like this. In this case, summer is done first, so it can get 4 marks. Winter is done second, it can get 3 marks, a maximum. Then there is the difference, which can get 2 marks, and there is the conclusion, which can get 1 mark, to make the total of 10 marks. Now, if the learners do winter first, then you mark winter for 4 marks. In other words, you mark 2 for the 2 steps, you give 1 for the adding, and 1 CA. So if the learners didn't do summer at all, they can get 4 marks on winter, if you understand what I mean. Summer, if they do it then, will get 3 marks. The difference will still be 2 marks, and the conclusion will be 1 mark. And all of these can be marked kind of independently. You can do, if they get a winter, they get a summer, and then they go and get a difference. But the winter is totally wrong, the summer is totally wrong. You can still mark the difference, and you can mark the conclusion. If all of these are correct and a difference is calculated and it's more than 100 rand and the conclusion is correct, the learner can get the conclusion mark. So check up to the end whether it's not possible for learners to maybe get some marks, although they did not do the whole thing correctly. Okay, let us then look at 2.1.3. Give 2 reasons why the winter tariffs are higher than the summer tariffs. Now, if you look at the original memo that we gave out, you will see that the usage that they are referring there to, it is more about, or the reasons that they are giving is more about why people use more electricity in winter than in summer. Now, actually the question was not asking why do we need more electricity in winter than in summer. The question was, why are the winter tariffs higher than summer tariffs. Now it boils down to what was said there. And it was said, it is that people are using more electricity in the winter. And the reason why they use more is that they are switching on a lot of appliances to make them warm. For example, they will now suddenly use heaters. And they will use things that is going electric blankets to make them warm. More than what they do in the summer to make them cold. Many people are quite content in summer to just not use appliances because the heat is not such a disturbance to them. But we get people who are very cold in winter, so they like to use the things that make them warm. They also like to eat warm food. You are going to probably eat cooked food in summer and not just in winter, and not just a salad like you would do in summer. So the chances are that you are going to use more electrical appliances. Another thing is also that we are going to stay more indoors because of the cold. We are not going to do outdoor things. So we're going to use again more appliances. But the reason why we now make the tariff higher is to discourage people to use a lot of electricity, because the demand will then be just so much higher, and also the supply and the demand will then be a mismatch. So to discourage the use of electricity because the supply cannot meet the demand will be the correct reason why tariffs are higher. But if people were talking about then, in this case, why people are using more electricity in winter, mark it as correct, because they do work hand in hand. The people use more electricity, hence we want to discourage them to use so much electricity. So the second reason that I have here is to reduce the use of electricity at the height, because the demand is high. And the reason why we want to reduce the use of electricity, another reason will be to protect the environment. So actually, to correctly answer the question, it must be about the tariffs that are higher. But if people are now saying why people are now using more electricity, you can also mark that as correct. 2 reasons were asked, so 2 by 2 marks each give me the 4 marks that the question count. And now the 2.2, and let me also note that this answer was incorrect on the original memo, and I will show you the correct answer on this paper. It is simply stated that VAT increased in South Africa on 1 April from 14 to 15%. VAT is now 15%. Now, the question states that the following shows how a dealer incorrectly calculates the new selling price of a vehicle which cost price is R160,087.72. And the question clearly says that this price already includes VAT. Now, when the VAT increased from 14 to 15%, now let's see, what does this dealer do? Because the question is now, identify the mistake that the dealer make in calculating the new selling price, and you go and in fact calculate the new selling price at 15% VAT. Now, what does the dealer do? The dealer take this price of 160,000 rand and 160,087 rand and 72 cents, and he adds again VAT on it. So the first mistake that the dealer make, mistake 1 is he add VAT again. He add VAT again. it was already added in the price because it's VAT added, and now we add VAT again of 14%. So that's the first mistake. And now the dealer goes and add on top of that just another 1%. So the learner works out on top of the 182,500 where he added the 14%. Now he says, oh, actually I was supposed to add 14%, not 15. I was supposed to add 15%, not 14%. So let me add another percent just for the fun of it. So now he adds on top of it, he adds another 1%. Why is this wrong? The thing is, he was supposed to add 15% to the original selling price. And not just 1% and 14% on top of what was given. So these are the mistakes, mistake 1 and mistake 2 that the dealer is now making. What would have been the correct answer? The correct answer would have been to first go and work out what is the correct price of the vehicle without then having the VAT on it. So the mistake is the original price must be calculated before the VAT of 15% can be added. That is a mistake. Or the learner can mention these mistakes here. Mistake 1 is he add the VAT again. So the mistake that is here in the memo, first we must go and get the original price. So the learner must take the 160,087 rand and 72 cents divided by 1,14 and get the price without VAT. Then, on top of this price without VAT, we must go and add now 15% VAT. Of course, we can do this also in 2 steps. We can first work out 15% of 140,427.82, and we will get a value of let me just get that value for you there. You work out 15% of 140,427.82 and the price of the VAT will be 21,064 rand 17 cents. It's actually 173. And then you add 140,427 rand 82 plus the 21,064,173. If I add that to that original price, which does not have any VAT in it, you will get exactly the same answer of 161,491 rand and 99 cents. So instead of doing it in 1 step, you can do it in 2 steps. Step 1 and step 2. You can first work out the VAT and then you can add the VAT. Now here at the bottom is a remark which say, if the learner did not identify the mistakes but did the correct calculation, you can give full marks as well. So let us just check for what are the marks going to be allocated. The first mark here is given for identifying the mistake. Then there is a mark for dividing by 1,14. So if the learners take the wrong value and divide by 1,14, take note that there is a method mark for dividing by 1,14. If the learner do divide by 1,14, there is going to be a CA mark. So the CA mark is not for anything. It goes with after division by 1,14. Remember, in Mathlet, we generally have a rule, 2 mistakes, stop marking. Unless we are breaking it up in small pieces like I did with the 2.1.2 question. There, where we have divided it into different parts, we will not apply the rule of 2 mistakes, stop marking. So, unless it is in parts, like 2.1.2, for example, 2.1.2. Okay, so there is a CI. Then here is a mark for multiplying by 1,15 and getting the answer. Now, if the learner did not identify the mistake, then you can say multiply 1,15 and answer can get 2 marks. If they don't give the mistake, because it's stated here at the bottom, if the learner did not identify the mistake, but they did the correct calculations, you can give full marks. So in this case, you can give 2 marks here, 1 for multiply by 1,15 and 1 for the answer. If they did not follow this method, but they followed this method, then you can give 1 mark for getting the VAT at 15%, and then, or the VAT of at a rate of 15%, and then 1 mark for adding and getting the final answer. So in this case, if the learners do not say this was the mistake, we are still going to give the learners full marks. The 4 marks wasn't a lot of marks, and I guess that a lot of learners is going to struggle with this question. Let us must see it as our difficult question, because many of learners are not going to know that they should first divide by 1,14. So what was wrong? What was wrong was that the 14% was added again, and that we did not go and get the original price and then add the 15%. Okay? And then, in other words, the mistake is that the first 15% was supposed to be calculated on the original value. That is the 160,000 X when I do not have that in it, which just boiled down to 140,427 rand 82 cents. I hope that is clear. Then we come to the last question. The last question is a simple data question. Now please note that in grade 12 we can ask 1 data set, or we can ask multiple data sets. In this case, the examiner just chose to do 1 set of data, and it is then a simplified case where the learners can work with the data easily. So let us see what is the question. I'm sorry. The question is about the coronavirus, the COVID-19 cases, and we give it at a specific date of 6 December 2020. Remember that the numbers are changing all the time, as the coronavirus is still, the COVID-19 is still very much alive, and we are still getting cases every day. So it's very important for the person who is doing the paper and who is giving us the source to tell us on what date exactly these cases are reported. So you will see the cases are reported per province, and here you can see the number of cases that was reported. Now it says 3.1, write in words the total number of COVID cases in the Western Cape on this date of 6 December 2020. So the learner must go to the Western Cape, must find the number of cases, and then write it in words. So the correct answer there in words will be, let me put it for you so that you can see it, 140,257 people. 140,257 people. People always want to know if I can break it down. Let us first just say, if any of the other numbers are written in words, 0 marks. Any other province, the number of cases are written in words, we give 0. Because it's very important that the learners must be able to also find the correct value in the table. It's just one set of data, so it's very simple already. They just have to look up for the COVID cases. Can we break this up into, if we want to break this up, let us then put 1 mark on 130,000. Let us make that one part, and then we make 257 another mark. It is of course number of people, but if they don't write number of people, because you can also have cases, write in total the total number of cases. The cases are people. So the cases or the word people are already standing here. If they leave out the word people, do not penalize. Leave out, no penalty, because it is on the paper. Some learners will not write people, they will write cases. It is still fine if they write cases. But let us focus on the number, the first part being 140,000 and the second part being 257. Okay. 3.2, the question. Identify the province with the second highest number of COVID-19 cases on this date. There can be one and one only question answer here. If you go and look, actually the value of A and B would be, if they are known, if I know the value of 8, it will be better actually to first have answered now number A and to put it in here. So I'm sorry we didn't see this, but right now as it stands here, and we don't know what the value of A is, we can see clearly that Western Cape is the second highest. But in this case, I will also advise learners to also now go and check after A was calculated whether it is still the second highest. So you will see the answer here is Western Cape. And it is, as a matter of fact, at this stage, Western Cape, but we will come back and confirm it. It is Western Cape 2 marks. It cannot be anything else. Fortunately, it will still be Western Cape, even if A is going to be calculated. So there is no other value that the learners can write. But I agree. Many teachers said to me, we should have asked this question here before, so that they first know what is the value of A before they identify the province. And I agree that this is a flaw in this paper. But fortunately, it's going to stay Western Cape. So let us go on with 3.3. Calculate A, the number of cases in Northwest, if the mean number of cases for all the provinces was 90,507,2222. Now, unfortunately, the total is not given, so the learners cannot go and subtract. The same problem is not made here. The only way that the learners can go and calculate the value of A, as I see it, is to work with the mean concept. Now, the mean number of cases is given. So let us ask ourselves, how will the mean be calculated? We will calculate the mean by adding all these values. We will say 237,719 plus 140,257 plus 136,772 plus, and we will continue to plus. Here we will say plus A plus 31,000 plus, and that will at the end of the day give us B. But when we plus all these values and we divide it by 9, we will get the mean value, which is given as 90,507,2222. Let us go to the memo. The memo here suggests that we say, let's add all the values, starting with 273,719 plus this, plus this, plus this, plus this, plus A, plus this, and we will then divide by 9. So I will say, let us give this first mark for adding all the values and A. Then, if we divide by 9, another mark can be there. So there is a method mark, there is a method mark. Then, we end up having this format here. Now we are going to change the subject of the formula. I'm going to multiply on this side with 9 to find 814,565, and I will be left with A plus 779,472. So to get the value of A, I must subtract the value of 779,472, and the value of A will be 350,093. So I give 1 mark for adding all the values and A. I give 1 mark for divide by 9. This actually has to do with changing the subject of the formula. Then I get 1 mark for CA, the final answer here. And that is the only way to get A for 4 marks here. So please note, if the learner just goes and add all the marks, all the values, they cannot get the mark before they do not say adding all values. They must still say plus A. Then they can get that mark. There's 1 mark for the method of dividing by 9. So if they add, but they forget to work with the A and they divide by 9, then there is a mark on the method for dividing by 9. But you cannot see A before the learner subtract. So if the learner just add all the values, ignoring A, they divide by 9, they only get 1 and 1 mark only, and that is for dividing by 9. So they will end up, if they just add everything and they say 779,472 divide by 9, there's only 1 mark, and they get 1/4 maximum, because here the plus A is missing. Okay. Then to get the value of B, B is of course now the total of all these values, but just to answer the question of 3.2 again, to identify the province with the second highest number, since Northwest is now actually only having a value of, if I can write it in here from there, Northwest is 350,093. Sorry, I see there, it should be actually 35 and then a space 093. We can still see that Western Cape is the second highest. So there's no doubt that the correct answer at 3.2 should be Western Cape. If the learner maybe abbreviate that Western Cape and write WC, you can still give the marks, but the only answer that can be correct there is then going to be Western Cape. So if the learner is now going to get the total, the learner is going to add all these values and get a value of 814,565 people that was infected with the virus at that stage. Answer only can get full marks. But now what is answer only here, get full marks. What is very important is that we must see A from 3.3, because remember now that the learner will bring that value and add. So if the learner made a mistake, say for instance the learner said 779,472 divide by 9, and they have now an incorrect value that they bring down. Let us just see what that will be. If I incorrectly say 779,472 divide by 9. Now they say the value is 86 608. And they take this, the incorrect value, and they bring that 86608 and they put it in here. Then there is no penalty. Even if they write the answer only, you must go and add all the values, and then instead of 350,93, you must add 86608. And if the learner did not make a mistake, the learner can get the full 2 marks. The learners cannot be penalized because they could not do 3.3a. So work with the learner's answer of 3.3a. Work with it here. It must be added. Then you can give full marks. 3.4. Express as a unit ratio the number of cases of Gauteng to Limpopo. So it's Gauteng to Limpopo. Gauteng is the 237,719, and Limpopo is 18,836. So there is the ratio correctly written, 237. This is Gauteng, and this is Limpopo. And unit ratio means you must put a 1 there. So the simplest thing is to simply divide by 237,719 on this side, and then also divide by 237,719 on that side. And then you will get 1 is to 0.079. Please take note that on the original memo here was a mistake. It was just saying 0.79, and that is not correct. It's 0.079. So check what are we giving numbers for before you start asking questions. If the learner used correct numbers, both, in other words, they use 237,719 and 18,837, then they can get 1 mark. It's actually more a RT mark than an A mark, but it's fine. If the order is correct, they say Gauteng to Limpopo. Gauteng first, Limpopo second, then it is 1 mark. If they swap the two around, say for instance, they say 18,836 to 237,719. And then they say 1 is 2, and now they divide both sides by 18,836. So let us just see what that one will become. We say 237,719, just as it is for Gauteng, and we divide it by 18,836. Then they get here 1 is to 65,7. They will get the correct numbers. They are the correct numbers. They are not in the correct order. The unit ratio is then CA, correct, and the learner can get 2/3. Please note that we have no penalty for rounding. So if the learners make this 1 is to 0.08, you can still give the final mark. If they make this one 1 is to 66, you can still give the final mark. We are not going to penalize for rounding. Colleagues, then we come to 3.5. Calculate the interquartile range for the above data. The interquartile range, to get the interquartile range, we will of course first have to arrange the data, and then we will have to get the lower quartiles and the upper quartiles. Now the number of data in the set is 9. So our middle value will be after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There is our middle value, and then we will have 4 values on this side as well. Now you will see they give here Q2 as 59 251. To go and calculate then the quartiles, Q1, I will have to take the two values, 23,450 plus 31,737 and divide it by 2, which will give me the value of 27,593 rand. 50 people, 27,593.5 people. Since we are working with data at this stage, we are not going to round up or down. Q3 will be then between 136,772 and 140,257 cases. Divide by 2 and I see there is my number of cases. So then to get the interquartile range, I need to say Q3 minus Q1, and I am going to subtract this value, and I'm going to end up with 110,921. Now remember one thing, that if we round, we only round in the final step. So here I'm expecting full cases. We are not going to round here already. Okay? Rounding must be in the last number, in the last answer. Another thing that I want to bring under your attention, actually this mark should not be here. Because to get the interquartile range, we do not need the median. So I'm going to cancel this mark, and I'm rather going to put that mark here on the last step. And I'm going to say Q3 minus, and then we put this one on Q1. And we put that mark here. Let us then say, 1 mark is for a range, 1 mark is for getting Q1, 1 mark is for getting Q3. Then we put here 1 mark for SF for correct substitution, 1 mark for method of subtract, and 1 mark for the final answer. If the learners did not arrange, they cannot, no penalty. If the learners did not arrange, no penalty if learners did not arrange. You do not give a penalty, you do not penalize. If they did not arrange, but they worked out the Q1 correctly and the Q3 correctly, they went here, then you give already all the marks. If they did not arrange, but they worked out Q1 and Q3 correctly, then this part can count 3 marks. This part here will count the other 3 marks. Learners don't have to show the arrange. Now, say for instance something go wrong and the learners incorrectly calculate Q1 and they incorrectly calculate Q3, but they bring that forward and they substitute it here correctly, then you can give the SF mark still, you can give the subtract mark, and you can give the CA mark. So please take note, if the learners show you where do they get Q1, they show you where they get Q3. And they come and subtract here Q3 and Q1, and they give you the CA finally. Then you can still go and give the SF mark, the subtract mark, and the CA mark. Just if the learners did not do interquartile range, but they did the range, they say they take the highest value, 237,719, and they subtract the lowest value of 18,836. This is actually most now the range that they are busy with. The only mark that you can give is the CA mark here at the end. The maximum will be 1/6, only if they subtract correctly, because they are totally working out the wrong thing. The last question is then going to be where the learners must complete the bar graph, Now the bar graph was already started for the learners here. If you look here on the sheet, the bar graph was already started. So the learners already got an idea of how the scale was working. The thing was now that the learners had to go and plot the other provinces, the bar graph. So if you go and look on the memo, you will see there's one accuracy mark for each correct bar. Now, you will see here where the box are supposed to lie. You will see KwaZulu-Natal. The value for KwaZulu-Natal, if you go into this thing, is 131,350. So, if you go and exactly work out, here is 100,000, here is 150,000. Then we know this is 110, 120, 130, 140, 150. So it should be just above that bar. But here on the memo, it looks like it's exactly on that bar. So be a little bit lenient when it comes to drawing these things. It can be a little bit off, but not significantly off. If the bar was, for instance, now lying there, it is totally off. Because the scale is very rough, you will see that it is possible that within a millimeter, the kids can make then a drawing on that place. It's very clear there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 marks for drawing then each one of these correct bars. If the learners are using the correct scale, which was given here, it's a maximum of 6 marks. If it's not clear to you what scales the learners was using, say for instance the learners are drawing all of these bars consistently incorrect, so they are misinterpreting the scale, then you can give a maximum of 3 marks. But the scale should be clear. Here are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 intervals. So each little one should be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000. What can be a little bit of a problem is exactly where to draw it from year to year, because there is 10,000 cases in between those steps. So it is possible that they can be within a millimeter of those bar heights that they are using. So if you can clearly see that they are using the scale of 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, mark the bars, 6 marks. If they are using consistently incorrect a scale, maybe 20, 40, 60, 80, I don't know what they can use, because for me the scale is very clear. You can give a maximum of 3 marks. Colleagues, and that is the memo for the grade 12 test. I trust that my memo discussion is going to make it for you easy to mark the tests of the learners. But should you have any inquiries, please do not hesitate to contact your subject advisor and to ask for advice on how to mark the test. It's very important for the SPA at the end of the year that our marking must be as accurate as possible. Thank you very much for listening to me. Good afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.